Has the Israel-Hamas war officially spilled over to the Red Sea? This particular question is buzzing across capitals in West Asia, courtesy the Houthis. The Iran-backed rebels have been escalating tensions there. They are attacking foreign vessels and disrupting the flow of trade. And the US and allies are issuing stern ultimatums. The Iranian regime has sent a warship. Oil prices have started to skyrocket, and all of these signs point at a full-blown war, a war that could have severe repercussions globally. Let's just start off with what the Houthis are doing. They have been firing missiles at shipping vessels, and in the latest instance, a Malta-flagged container ship came under attack. It reported seeing 3 explosions towards its port quarter. This happened about 24 kilometers southwest of Yemen's Mocha. Why a Malta-flagged ship? Didn't the Houthis promise to attack Israeli ships only? Well, here's what the British maritime security firm Abre had to say. Let me quote. It was assessed this particular vessel was not Israel-affiliated, but other vessels in the operator's fleet had regularly called Israel, and this affiliation might have been sufficient for her to be targeted. This is not the only incident, by the way. On Sunday, Houthi fighters attacked a Singapore-flagged commercial vessel. They even tried to board the ship, but were repelled by American helicopters. The naval battle led to 3 Houthi boats sinking and 10 militants dying. 48 hours after this incident, the Houthis issued a statement vowing to punish the US for its actions.
The situation has reached a point where Americans have resorted to militarizing the Red Sea, and their reckless actions are affecting international navigation, serving the interests of Israeli enemy. America is the instigator of wars, problems and chaos, and it disturbs security on land and sea. They have committed a major crime by targeting our armed naval forces who were carrying out their official and routine duties in the Red Sea for the sake of navigation security. With this action, America has opened fire on itself and brought danger to its own interests. It will not escape punishment and retaliation.
And in response to this provocation, the US and allies have also issued an ultimatum. They have asked the Houthis to either cease the attacks or bear consequences. The ultimatum has been jointly issued by the governments of the US, Australia, Bahrain, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Singapore, and the UK. Let me quote the most telling excerpt from the statement. The Houthis will bear the responsibility of the consequences should they continue to threaten lives, the global economy, and the free flow of commerce in the region's critical waterways. We remain committed to the international rules-based order and are determined to hold malign actors accountable for unlawful seizures and attacks. And as this warning was issued, Iran also jumped onto the issue. 48 hours ago, Iran reportedly dispatched a naval frigate to the Red Sea. According to Iran's Tasnim news agency, the warship named Al-Borz crossed the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and entered the busy waterway of the Red Sea. What will this frigate do is the question. Well, according to Iranian officials, the 51-year-old vessel, originally sold to the Shah of Iran by Britain, will supervise the naval missions in the Indian, Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. The US and its allies have their doubts over whether the vessel will really do that. Remember, just 24 hours ago, Iran also witnessed a blast near the tomb of Qasem Soleimani. The 2 explosions during an event meant to commemorate the former commander of Iran's elite Quds forces. Iran suspects the involvement of Israel in these blasts. And in a statement issued on Wednesday, the Iranian president Ebrahim Raisi told a crowd in Tehran that Israel will pay the price for its alleged actions. Listen to this.
I warn the Zionist regime, don't doubt it. You will pay the price for this crime. These crimes that you have committed, you will deeply regret.
And you will see by the power of God that the one who has failed in this field will leave this field more disgraced than today is the Zionist regime and the criminal America.
And as this war of words continues, as these attacks in the Red Sea continue, oil prices are beginning to skyrocket. According to reports, Brent crude was up 49 cents. And U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 36 cents. This happened after both benchmarks gained around $2 in earlier trading. In fact, a Reuters survey of economists and analysts has predicted that Brent crude would average $82.56 a barrel this year. This will be up slightly from the 2023 average of $82.17 a barrel. This is mostly because of the tensions in the Red Sea. And that's not all. This crisis has also boosted shipping costs and triggered inflation worries. Freight rates, you see, are increasing daily and additional surcharges are being levied. The shipping time for goods has gone up. There is a threat that spring and summer products will be late this year due to the vessels traveling the long way around South Africa's Cape of Good Hope instead of the Red Sea. And all of this could lead to inflation in countries around the world. The consequences could be damaging because a host of countries are going to polls next year. The list includes the US itself. The country cannot afford inflation in an election year, and this could lead to political turmoil and public dissatisfaction. So at the end of the day, a lot hangs in the balance because of what's unfolding in the Red Sea. If there is a full-scale war, the repercussions will be felt across the world. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I mention the words terror beasts? Huge predators on the prowl, perhaps? Some sort of a machine ready for attack? Well, I'm talking about worms. Yes, those slimy creatures that no one is fond of. And no ordinary worms, by the way. Huge 500 million year old predator worms. And guess what? According to scientists, these worms were some of the largest swimming animals over 520 million years ago. Fossils of these worms have now been found in North Greenland. That's right, fossils of these predators of the past have been unearthed. And what really is being said about them? What has the discovery of the fossils revealed? How is it significant? Let's break it all down for you. First things first, these worms are called Timoribesta. You know what that means in Latin? Terror beasts. So clearly, just their name is enough to give you an idea of how dreadful they are. Fossils of these worms have been found in North Greenland. What exactly do we know about these creatures? According to scientists, they are some of the earliest carnivorous animals. They had a distinct head, fins, gigantic jaws. As per researchers, these creatures would have been close to the top as far as the food chain is concerned. These worms used to primarily feed on iso-6. Remains of this arthropod, which was quite common back in the day, have been found in the digestive systems of the worm. These findings tell us a lot more about what the world was like 500 million years ago. Not just that, they also reveal that the ocean ecosystems back in the day were a lot more complicated than earlier thought. The US is at it again. In its war against the Al-Qaeda, it is seeking to base military drones along the West African coast. Where exactly, you ask? Let's just have a look at this map. Here, in countries along the Atlantic coast, the US wants to use the airfields of Ghana, the Ivory Coast and Benin. You see, these coastal countries along with Togo are relatively stable, but now they are threatened by jihadists surging south from Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger in the Sahel region. What exactly would these unarmed drones do? Let me break it down for you. They would basically allow the American forces to conduct aerial surveillance and to trace the movements of the militants along the coast. They would also provide tactical advice to the local troops during operations. You see, where the US does not want to deploy troops, it is deploying drones to do the job. Now, there was a time when drones would just play a supporting role in the military operations, but now they have become a very crucial part of modern warfare. We've been telling you about this. Just have a look at what's going on around us. Two wars are going on. Drones have played a key role in both of these wars. In the Ukraine war, Russia started firing Shahed drones into Ukraine in September 2022. Between then and last month, it had sent around 3,700 deep into Ukrainian territories. In fact, just earlier this week, in the early hours of the new year, Russia launched a record 90 Shahed-type drones across major Ukrainian cities. And you see, these drones are cheaply produced in Iran. Initially, they confused Ukraine's air defense. They were harder for standard radars to detect as compared to missiles. And when Ukraine did actually figure it out, it faced a dilemma. As I told you, the drones are very cheap to produce. And by cheap, I mean around $20,000 per drone. But the defense missiles used to intercept them are not. All in all, reining in these drones was a costly affair, and Kiev had to adapt. It now uses vehicles with mounted machine guns to shoot down the drones. Not just that, the US has also armed Ukraine with switchblade kamikaze drones. And in Gaza, Israel has used drones to pound Hamas from a safe distance. The big ones carry out constant surveillance of the strip, and the smaller ones get much closer to the action. One such example is the Extender. It is designed for indoor and underground operations. It can easily get into the buildings and the tunnels of Gaza. And just a day ago, a drone strike in Beirut killed senior Hamas official Saleh al-Aruri. We told you about that. Hamas is no less. It has its own modified drones. When it attacked Israel on October 7, a fleet of drones filled the Israeli skies. These drones are available online, by the way, for just $6,500. They were rigged to carry explosives and knockout cameras, communication systems, remote-controlled guns. Together, they defeated Israel's $1 billion border defense. And this, you see, was a wake-up call. The deadly potential of drones was on wide display for the world. Drones are changing the course of wars, to say the least. Sure, they have been around for over 2 decades now, but today a new generation of cheap, commercially available systems is emerging, and it is basically challenging some of the world's most technologically advanced forces. They have become indispensable for modern military operations. They provide better surveillance, precise targeting, they are safe, convenient, and most importantly, they are cheap and flexible. And their role is only going to expand as far as warfare is concerned. How are the militaries around the world adapting is the question. The US has opened a specialized drone warfare school. You heard that right. It is basically teaching the American troops how to defend against drones. It is the first academy of its kind. Some 1,000 personnel will be trained every year. Meanwhile, the NATO collectively owns and operates 5 large, high-altitude, long-endurance systems. I'm talking about NATO's Alliance Ground Surveillance. It is composed of 5 NATO Phoenix remotely piloted aircraft, along with a series of associated ground command and control stations. And these systems continuously detect and track moving objects like drones. As for India, reports say the government is planning to install an anti-drone system along the country's western border. Not only would that defend the country from drone attacks, but also from increasing drug menace from neighbor Pakistan, which often drops packets of opium and heroin using drones.